Now that I'm 67 and a half, I'm doing my makeup much differently than I did when I was in my 30s, 40s, and even my 50s. Today I'm going to be sharing some of my tips and tricks to not only make my face look good as I leave the house, but avoid any mishaps 3 or 4 hours down the road. I'm going to show you how I take my face from this to this. That's coming up next. Welcome in, I'm Kimberly. This is Pretty Over 50, where we talk everything beauty, fitness, and lifestyle for the over 50 and over 60 woman. I'm so glad you're here today. I'm going to be sharing some of my best tips and tricks for doing makeup on more mature skin. It's a completely different ballgame now that I'm in my late 60s than it was when I was 30, 40, and even 50. And I'm going to be hitting on some of the important points today. I think you're going to find it very interesting. If you're new here, I'm so glad you stopped by for this one. I hope you'll consider subscribing while you're here and make sure you click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. And if you want all the good stuff, you might want to sign up for my Sunday morning email newsletter. It comes out on Sunday morning. It is far and away the most popular thing about my channel. Honestly, I could disappear tomorrow. People would be sending me emails saying, "Where's the Sunday morning email newsletter?" And I hope you're having fun. In it, I include all the cool things I found throughout the week, whether it's a good sale you might have missed or a good piece of information, something funny, something heartwarming, just the good information that I see that I want to share with you. Kind of like we're having coffee together on Sunday morning. It's super easy to sign up. The link is in the description box down below. Super easy, super free, super fun. I think you're going to love it. As I mentioned, doing makeup now in my 60s, I am 2.5 years from 70. That just cracks me up, and I'll tell you why. I feel better than I have felt in probably a decade and a half or maybe 2 decades. I guess my health program is kicking in. So I feel great. I can't believe I'm 2.5 years from 70. However, my face is different than it was, and I have had to adjust my makeup routine a little bit to really work with the skin that I have now. One of the overriding pieces of information I want to give you is that I'm wearing less makeup now. Not only am I wearing makeup less often, in other words, I put makeup on maybe a few times a week. Mostly I just go out like this, bare skinned with just my skincare on. When I do put on makeup, I'm using less and less and less because I'm finding that works better for my very mature skin. This morning I did my skincare, a full skincare routine, and I have lots of videos over on my channel about my skincare routine. You can go over and check them out. I like to wait 20 to 30 minutes prior to putting my makeup on so that my skincare has the opportunity to really absorb into my skin, and it makes a better canvas for the makeup that I'm going to be putting on my skin. The next thing I want to talk about is something that I think is overlooked a lot, particularly with mature women, and that is tone and texture of our skin. I'm sure that you're able to identify someone that has really nice skin, regardless of whether they have wrinkles or laxity and this and that, by the tone and the texture of their skin. That tells you they have a good skincare routine. And what I'm talking about is that brightness and freshness to the skin. The reason our skin gets more ruddy looking and just dull and thicker looking as we age is because that natural process of turning over skin cells and sloughing off old skin really slows down, along with everything else except wrinkles, as we age. So helping our skin to really turn over their skin cells is really, really important. It's easy to do. Maybe if you haven't really looked into this, it's something you might want to add to your routine. A good vitamin C serum is really going to help with that. It just makes your skin look brighter and fresher. In addition, a good chemical peel. I like the AHA BHA peeling solution from The Ordinary. Use it once a week. It's extremely affordable. A bottle's less than $10. Mine lasts me about 6 months, so it's definitely super affordable. Give that a whirl if you feel like your skin is not as bright and fresh as you'd like it to be. However, if you have sensitive skin, do a patch test first to make sure that your skin can handle it. Another thing that will really help with the brightness and the freshness of your skin is actually shaving your face. I've been doing this for a few years now, and I just use one of these little tinkle razors. You can even pick these up at the grocery store now. The cool thing about this process is that not only does it get rid of those random furball hairs on your face, but it helps to exfoliate your skin. So you're really creating quite the beautiful canvas when you shave regularly, a much smoother surface for your makeup to go on. Now you're probably asking, doesn't that give you whiskers? Well, not for me, it hasn't. I've been shaving my face over 4 years now. All the hair that was peach fuzz is still peach fuzz. All the little whiskery things that were whiskers to start with are still whiskers. So I plucked those and I just get the little peach fuzz off with these razors. I have a full video on face shaving. I'll list it down below. I think you might find it interesting if you haven't done it before. So that's addressing the tone and texture of your skin. Super important. If you haven't done anything to address that, give it a whirl. I think you're going to be really surprised and impressed with the improvement in your skin, just making sure that those cells are turning over. The next thing that I look at when I sit down to do my makeup is my eyebrows. Honestly, I can go to bed a normal person and wake up in the morning and I'm Carl Malden with all these eyebrow hairs everywhere. So what I'll do when I sit down is I will brush my brows up, and what I'm looking for are any long stray brows, and what I'll do is I'll just take a pair of scissors and just clip and make sure that those are handled. I seem to have more wild hairs in my eyebrows than when I was younger. I think it's just a part of aging. The other thing that I do when I sit down to do my makeup is I put something on my lips to hydrate them and plump them up. This is the City Beauty lip gloss. I keep one of these everywhere around my house. This is San Diego, and what that will do is that'll just hydrate my lips and make them a little bit fluffier by the time I'm ready to put my lipstick on at the end of my makeup routine. Now that our skin is looking good, our lips are fluffed up, we've got our eyebrows handled, I want to start looking at the issues around my face that are a result of me being a little bit older. One of the things that has happened for me, and maybe for you too, is because our skin thins as we age, I want to make sure that I address those veins that are now showing up that didn't used to. And here's the funny thing, I did not notice them until I looked at photographs of myself. Interestingly enough, it would show up in photographs, but I really wouldn't see it in person. I see it in person now. So what I do is I just take a Jones Road pencil in more of my skin tone, and I just address those little veins that are going to pop up and make me look like I've got some issues underneath my skin. This video is really not about products, but I will have all the products that I'm using down in the description box below, so super easy to find if you're interested. Next, I want to address those purple circles underneath my eyes, and I'm going to take another Jones Road pencil. This is in a lighter shade, and I'm just going to hit that purple area to kind of color correct it before I go in with my concealer. Now, of course, we've got to be very aware to not load up a whole lot of product underneath our eyes, because I bet that your under eyes are a little bit looser and a little more wrinkly than they were when you were in your 30s. I know mine are. So I'm just going to tap that in, and then I'm going to go in with the Catrice Under Eye Brightener. This is stuff that I do all the time, and you've seen this before if you watch my channel. The reason I'm going to do this is it's going to brighten up my under eyes, again prepping before I put that concealer on, because I want to make sure that those dark circles are a little bit eliminated as I put the rest of my makeup on. You'll notice that I'm using this finger right here because it's going to have a little more gentle pressure than my index finger. Now I'm going to go in with an eyeshadow primer. As I've gotten older, I have little doodads on my eyelids now. So even if I'm not going to be wearing makeup, I will sometimes address that with a quick swipe of a cream eyeshadow just to cover up those veinings and redness that I have on my eyelids. Just a little bit right here, and tap that in. Next, I'm going to rough in my eyebrow shape. The reason I want to do that now is to kind of define define the area of my eyebrows. I always go back in at the end of my makeup and do the detail work of my eyebrows, because as I put my foundation on, a lot of times my eyebrows will get disturbed. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to rough it in so that I get some color and sort of establish that area. And one of the things that I have learned to do with my eyebrows is change the shape a little bit. When I was younger, I would bring that tip down. I think it was because I was influenced by Elizabeth Taylor. Remember her in that Egyptian Cleopatra movie where she just had those incredible eyebrows? What I have found as I have gotten older is pulling the tip of that eyebrow down pulls my eyes down. What I do now is I go out instead of down. So that shape goes out instead of a V shape here, really opening up my eyes and adding a little bit of a lift. Now I'm going to put a primer on my skin. A lot of people don't use a primer prior to their foundation. I do. I just like the way that it kind of gives my face a nice canvas to work with. It smooths everything out. The one I've been loving is this Dermatology #1 primer. It's kind of like a clear gripping primer. It's very translucent. Right here you can hardly even see it. And then I'm just going to put that in the areas of my face that I tend to have my foundation break up. So that's where I'm going to focus it, particularly on my nose, the fronts of my cheeks, and my chin. If my foundation is going to fail me, it's going to be on my chin. So I like to make sure that I prep it nicely so that foundation has a better chance of sitting down. As I'm doing my makeup as a mature woman, not only am I looking for makeup that's going to look nice and natural and pretty as I walk out of the house, but I really want to make sure that I'm not creating problems down the road. In other words, I don't want things to pop up in 4 or 5 hours because my makeup application ended up not working for me. A lot of times what happens with makeup on more mature women is it fails because our skin is not as taut as it used to be. In other words, parts are touching that didn't used to touch. In other words, see right here as I smile, that crinkly, wrinkly stuff underneath my eyes hits those lower lashes. So what I have done to work with that is I don't put anything on my lower lashes anymore. It's just not worth it, because no matter what I do, if I put something on my lower lashes, 3 or 4 hours from now, that's going to be underneath my eyes, and I don't want that. So not only am I working with a look that's going to look pretty now, I want to create a look that's going to stay and not cause problems down the road. You know, we've all been at that family reunion, and sweet old great Aunt Edna is over in the corner, 98, and she looks adorable, except the red lipstick that she put on is not where she originally put it on. It has traveled to places she doesn't want it to be. You don't want to say anything to her because you love her. I don't want to be that Aunt Edna. I want to make sure that my makeup looks as good 3 or 4 hours from now as it does when I walk out the door. So making sure that I'm not putting on something that's going to create a problem down the road is really important to me. I'm going to go in with eyeshadow now. The reason I do my eyeshadow prior to my foundation really has more to do with using powdered shadow, but I've gotten in the habit and now I do it first. This is a cream shadow from IT Cosmetics. I just love this color. It's very, very natural. I used to do a much more complicated look with my eyeshadow. I really don't anymore because I find that it just looks better with my more mature skin if I make things simpler on my face. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw this on, and I'm going to bring it right up to that transition area. And I want you to notice, look at what a nice job that has done in covering up the little doodads on my eyelids. So now I'm just going to pat this in, and the nice thing about the subtle color of this shadow is that it's not obvious. It's just a nice sort of watercolor wash over my lids that covers up those little discoloration bits and gives me a nice tone for my eyelids. So you can see what a simple application that is and how it has really addressed a lot of the problems with the eyelids on my face now. I just want to share that an absolutely indispensable tool for me on my makeup table is Q-tips. I use Q-tips all the time. Not only can I clean up any areas around my eyebrows, but I can get into the corners of my eyes. I can get underneath my eyes, so much. So have Q-tips around. I think you're going to find them incredibly handy. Now I'm going to go in with foundation, and here's where prepping our skin really comes into play. If you have a smooth canvas to work with, you've been addressing your skin with good skincare, you've shaved off the little peach fuzz, all that sort of thing, then you have a canvas that's really going to take the foundation really nicely. I try to use as little as possible to get the effects that I'm looking for. And what am I looking for? I'm looking to even out my skin tone, and I would like a little bit of glow just to liven up my face. So I'm just going to pounce this in with my brush first, and you can see already how this is really evening out my skin tone, and it's going to be sitting nicely because of the preparation on my skin. And I'm going to bring it down a little bit onto my neck. Once I have my foundation pounced in with the brush, I like to go back in with a sponge. And I know this seems like an extra step, and yes, it is. But for some reason, the finish that the sponge leaves on my face is really, really pretty. So it's worth it to me. See how these marionette lines are right here? That's going to collect my foundation in there. So I like to make sure that I'm spreading that out and pouncing it in to really get that foundation to smooth out in that area. Now, one of the things I'm looking at is, see how that vein is still showing up right there? I'm going to go back in with my pencil, and I'm really lightly going to go over that and try to disguise that blueness and just tap it in with my finger. And then the nice thing is the warmth from my skin is really going to help that just melt into the surface. So this pouncing not only gives a nice finish to the complexion, but it helps to really work that product throughout your face so you don't have any buildup in different areas. Next up is concealer, and this is always such a dicey one with mature skin. It is something that you just have to work with to find out what's really going to make it look the best as possible for your under eyes. Everybody has a favorite concealer. Everybody does, and most of them are different. This is the one that I've been loving lately. This is the Revlon Color Stay Skin Awaken. I'm in color 015, and I am just really liking it. I don't really like the little squeezy tube on the end, but there we have it. So I'm not going to use a lot, but I'm really going to focus on that dark area there. So now that I've got this concealer underneath my eyes, how do I make sure that it doesn't collect in my little wrinkles? The answer is it will a little bit regardless of what you do. It's just a matter of our age. But tapping it in and setting it down with powder and then really working with it before you put on a setting spray is going to help. I find that the mitigation of the dark circles underneath my eyes is worth it for having to deal with a little bit of product collection in my wrinkles. So the good thing is that most of my friends don't have very good eyesight anymore. So there we have it. What I'm doing is I'm just tapping it in back and forth, and I'm making sure to go down underneath those trough areas so that it blends in with my foundation. Once I think I have it tapped in, I'm going to go in with my sponge, that little pointy tip right here, and I'm just going to really make sure that this is as thin as possible and as blended in as possible. Now I'm going to take a very light powder. This is the Kosas Cloud Set powder. I've been really happy with this. And a little angled brush. I'm going to get a little bit of product on my brush, tap it off, and I'm going to start on the outside right here and work it in. And then I'm going to hit the parts of my complexion that I really want to set down just lightly. Now I'm going to go back in with that sponge and really press that powder in. And that's going to help that concealer not collect in the lines. Now, will it eventually, or will it a little bit? Yeah, that's been my experience. If I have wrinkled under eyes, the product's going to end up in my wrinkles. It just is. However, this really helps it to be not that noticeable and a smaller issue than dark circles. Now it's time for contour. I'm using the e.l.f. Halo Glow Beauty Wand. I really like this. It's very, very affordable. And what I'm doing here is I just want to create planes and angles on my face, because doing that is going to give me more shape and more definition. So the way that I use it is around my forehead to kind of make my forehead look a little less like a big forehead. And one of the things I can say is I have never been able to wash my face in the evening and not get some of this on the towel when I'm done, because it gets up in my hair and stuff. So use a black makeup towel if you're going to do this, because it will get on your towels. So I've started that right there. Where I want to go next is to my cheekbone area to kind of define those. What I do now that I didn't do when I was in my 40s and 50s is I make it a little bit higher, because as we age, everything kind of sinks, and what I'm trying to do is full the eye and bring it back up again. So if you look on my face right here, the hollow of my cheek is down here. Where I'm going to put that contour is just a little bit above that to kind of trick the eye into thinking that's where that hollow actually is, when it isn't. The next thing I'm going to do is another fool the eye thing. I'm going to bring that contour down along my chin line, and you're wondering, well, why the heck are you doing that? Because that's going to make that area of my face look like it turns under because of that color. It's just the push and pull of light and dark. That's going to give the illusion that my chin is a little bit firmer than it actually is. So now I'm going to take a stipple brush and just start blending that in. And you can see how that has cut a line that it looks like the hollow of my cheek is a little bit higher than it is. Now underneath my chin, and I want you to watch what happens when I start blending this in. It really does create the illusion of a shadow there, making my chin line look a little bit firmer. The trick with this is that you don't want to use very much, and you want to make sure that you blend it in really well. Next up is blush, and this is such a hot topic, particularly for more mature skin. Where do we put our blush? When we were younger, we were told that you smile and you put the blush right on the apples of your cheeks. Doesn't work when you're older. And I'm going to show you why. Because our skin is looser and is not quite as taut, what is the apples of our cheeks when we're older is very different when we're not smiling. So let me show you what happens. So I'm going to smile. I'm going to put that dot right on the apple of my cheek right there, and watch. When I don't smile, it's all the way down here. That's the last place you want to put your blush when you're a more mature woman, because it's just going to drag your face down. I absolutely don't want any color right here. I want the color to be lifted and up. Little bit of repair right here. So now that we know we don't want it on the apples of our cheeks, where do we want it? We want it in a place that's going to add warmth to our face, kind of like a little sun-kissed look, but that's not going to move around as our face moves around and accentuate the fact that when we're not smiling, things are a lot lower than they used to be. So I'm going to get a little bit of product on my brush here. This is just the Ilia blush. I really like this. And where I'm going to start my blush is over here, because this does not move as much as this does. So I'm going to start placing that right on that cheekbone above the contour, and I'm going to start working it in almost up to the temple area. So very different placement. We're going to go on to the sides and up. So look at the difference here. When I smile, you're still going to see the color, but when I don't smile, that color doesn't drag my face down. Now that I have that color on my face, I want to make sure that I blend it in really well. One of the ways I do that is with the back end of my sponge, and I'm going to go around the exterior of that placement and really smooth it into my complexion. And you can see that looks a lot more natural now. In my world, one of the most important things for mature skin is to blend, blend, blend. Because we have so much additional action going on our faces, skin that's not as taut, maybe we've got some lines and wrinkles, maybe some discoloration areas. We've got a lot going on that we didn't used to have going on. So I want to make sure that any makeup application is very smooth, very blended, and not adding to that visual noise. So the blush is on, it looks very natural, and one thing that you can really check yourself with at home is when you look straight ahead, you want to make sure that your blush is not inside the center line of your iris. In other words, it's all outside of that line. So look straight forward, put your finger there or a makeup brush, and see if your blush is going inside here. That's probably not going to help you get a more lifted look with your complexion. Now that we have the contour on, we've got the blush applied in a place that's going to help us have more of a lifted look. What I like to do is put on highlighter. Not everyone likes highlighter. If it doesn't work for you, that's just fine. I absolutely love it, and I use it almost every time I do my makeup. So I'm just going to get a little bit of highlighter on my brush, and where am I going to place it? I'm going to place it at the very top where that bone is, right there, just a little bit, and that's going to add a little bit of lift and interest to that area. Now this is a really good powdered highlighter. You've got to be careful of these that they don't sit on the skin depending on which product you use. Now, one of the things I love to do is I love to put just a little bit on the fronts of my cheeks. You don't need to do this, it's just what I do. And a little bit on the end of my nose, mostly because I can't help myself. Now that I have that highlighter on, what do? We blend, 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 just to make sure that we don't have any harsh edges and everything looks nice and natural. So now we have all the face makeup on. We have a little bit left to do with the eyes, but we have a look that has evened out the skin tone. I've addressed the veining and the discolorations on my face. I've added a little bit of perkiness with the blush, a little bit of depth with the contour, and a little bit, I don't know, of fun with the highlighter. Everything looks very natural, and it's not going to move and cause me problems as the day moves forward. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to put on a finishing powder. I use the Hourglass. This is in dim light. This stuff is expensive. It's totally worth it. I've had this forever and I've hardly even made a dent in it. So I'm just going to get a little bit on a big fluffy brush, tap it off, and I'm just going to pounce that around my face. What this does is it helps to set down those color cosmetics that I have on my complexion, and it adds just a little bit of a subtle filter all over my face, really pulling everything together. Before I go in with my setting spray, I'm going to go back in with my sponge and smooth everything out. So I'm going to go underneath my eyes and make sure that that concealer, which has crept into a little bit of the lines, is all smoothed out. Then I'm going to go down to my nasal labial fold and my marionette lines, and I'm going to make sure that anything that's collected in there is all tapped out. And when I apply my setting spray, I want to make sure that I pull my face in a way that the crinkles are more expanded so that the product that wants to collect in there will have a tougher time. Now I'm going to finish up my eyes. So I've curled my lashes and now I'm going to tightline. When I was younger, I used to tightline in my lower waterline. I don't do that anymore for a couple of reasons. First of all, I don't want it to travel to other places. I think it's too harsh for my more mature skin, and I don't want to bring any attention to the lower part of my eyes. That's where the crinkly wrinklies are. I want all the focus to be on my upper eyes, so I just leave my lower lids alone. So I'm just going to tight line on my upper lashes, and what I'm doing here is I'm working on getting that right in between each of those lashes, as well as that skin, but getting into that lash line is really what's going to create that nice depth in the mascara line. Now I'm going to go in with a lash base. I did not use a lash base when I was younger. I never even thought about it. I love it now. This is the L'Oreal Voluminous Lash Base. I really do like this very much. So I'm just going to put a quick coat on my lashes. And while that lash base is drying, I'm going to go back and finish up the detail work on my brows. So I'm going to hit any spots that need to be filled in. Particularly, I really do focus on this bottom line because I feel like this creates a nice look. Now for the tip, instead of coming down, I'm going to come out as much as I can so that that keeps my eyes more open. You can see how that just kind of gives a nice elongated look to the eye area instead of closing it off. So now I have that shape all ready to go. I use an eyebrow gel now. I'm not sure what it is, but my eyebrows just are a little bit more unruly than they used to be. So I like to make sure that I kind of put them into place before I leave the house. And I will do this even if I'm not wearing makeup. I will make sure that, you know, my eyebrows are locked into place for the day. So it's time for the mascara coat now, and you can see I have done nothing on my lower lashes, and I'm not going to because I don't want the harshness down there, and I also don't want it creeping down into my under eye area during the day. This is the point in my makeup that I generally stop and go do my hair. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'll be right back. Quite often when I'm doing my hair, I'll look at my makeup and think, oh gosh, it just doesn't look right. And then I'll go put on my lipstick and it pulls it all together. So if your makeup is not working for you, you think it's just not looking right, do your lipstick first and then kind of take a look, and it might look fabulous. So the lipstick seems to pull it all together for me. One of the challenges that we face as we get older is lip lines, and how do we keep our lipstick from moving up into those lip lines? The way that I've addressed it is I generally don't wear lipstick that's going to really show up in my lip lines because it's almost no matter what I do, it's going to move a little bit. What I have really started doing is wearing a mostly neutral lip. Then when it does move, it doesn't look as obvious. So I'm going to line my lips today with this lovely liner that I just adore. It's actually from Maybelline and it's called Gone Greige. It's one of the only cool tone lip liners I've found. So I'm going to line my lips. And I always work on lining the outside of the line around my lips because I want my lips to look a little bit bigger. They've gotten thinner as I've gotten older. Maybe the same thing has happened to you. So I like to give myself a lot of lip real estate. I actually have a video, I'll link it down below, where I talk about faking fuller lips for older women. It's kind of helpful if you're interested. So I have my lips lined. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of a more neutral toned gloss to it. So here we have the finished lipstick, and you can see if it starts traveling or when it starts traveling up into my lip lines, it's just not going to be that noticeable because it's not a very bright color. Now, what happens when you want to wear a bright color? And sometimes I do, but I generally don't wear a bright color when I'm going to be eating or drinking a lot or outside when it's really hot and humid, because I'm just setting myself up for trouble down the road. However, sometimes I do want to wear a bright, bold lip. The very best lipstick I've found for that is the Revlon Color Stay. This is one of those lipsticks that sort of dries down on your lips, although I can say that this formulation doesn't feel like the Sahara Desert on your lips. It actually feels fairly comfortable. In addition, you don't really need a lip liner with these. They really do outline your lips nicely. Of course, it is easier to use a lip liner to kind of establish the outline of your lip area, but if you don't have one, it's not as important. So the Revlon Color Stay is a good choice if you want a little bit of a brighter lip and you don't want to worry about it traveling up into your lip lines. So here we have the finished look. I am enjoying this because not only does it look nice as I walk out the door, but I've set myself up for having a day of makeup where there's not going to be obvious issues. In other words, I'm not going to get blackness under my eyes from lower lash mascara. I'm not going to have my eyeshadow crease and look really obvious in the crease of my eyes. I'm not going to have my lipstick running up to my lip lines being super obvious. I'm not going to have to worry about my cheeks when I don't smile and the color just crashing down to an area where I don't want it. It just has solved all the problems of evening out my skin tone, making me look a little brighter and fresher for the day. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video on the tips and tricks that I use on my more mature 67-year-old skin. If you found it fun, useful, and helpful, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. You guys know it just makes my day when you take a few minutes out of your day to spend it with me. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you. Again, I'm Kimberly. This is Pretty Over 50, where we talk everything beauty, fitness, and lifestyle for the over 50 and over 60 woman. Make it a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.